Hello gorgeous, I am back today and today I'm talking about generational curses and the savage generation. So before I start this video, I actually want to take a moment to describe the concept of a generational curse because some of you guys may be aware of this and others may not be. So the term or phrase generational curse is usually used to define a pattern that has been running for several generations. So for example, maybe your grandmother was seemed to be cursed in love and had multiple divorces, and then the same thing happened to your mom, and now you are repeating that pattern. So that would be an example of a generational curse or a generational pattern that is it's like history repeating itself. Or for example, maybe I'm trying to think of a couple different examples, but maybe your great grandmother was really awful with money, and no matter what she did or how much money inherited or whatever, she seemed to find herself broke. And then your grandmother did the same thing, and then your mother did the same thing, and now you are stuck in this pattern where no matter how much money shows up on your doorstep, you end up broke. This is also an example of a generational curse. So that's what that looks like, a pattern that we just keep repeating. Now, there's two reasons for this. One is an actual sort of like a genetic code working, right? Like there's certain things that I believe are in the DNA and we inherited those traumas. We know this through epigenetics now through the womb. And so some of it is genetic, but again, epigenetic means we're above the genes and we can work to resolve that. I have broken myself many generational curses, so I'm here to tell you, you can definitely break those patterns. And then the second aspect of it is just, that's what you saw, that's what you learned, and so that's what was the learned behavior. And so both of those things, you need to be aware of it and acknowledge that this is not your truth, this is not who you are, this is not a pattern that you have to be running. It's like a computer virus that keeps transferring from one system to the next. So you can upgrade your laptop 4 times, but the virus still keeps transferring, and so you must delete that virus in the first place. Otherwise it's just going to keep coming back no matter how many systems you buy or how many laptops you buy. So that's really how you need to look at it. So why do I refer to the generation that breaks the curse as the savage generation? Typically, in my experience, what I've seen is it's usually not an entire generation that breaks it. It's usually 1 or 2 max people. So let's say that this pattern has been in your family for, as far as 4 or 5 generations, and you were the one that kind of like wakes up from the sleep and you're like, wait a minute, why are we doing this? Mom did this, grandma did this, great grandma did this. Like, why are we like, what don't we know? What do I need to learn? Why am I cursed in this way? So you end up being the one that starts saying, hey, why are we running this program, right? Like, what do we have to do to break it? My friends are not doing this, like that girl's not doing it. And so it's not typically like, maybe if you have 4 siblings, it's not like all 4 of the siblings will wake up at the same time. It's typically one person will wake up, and this one person that wakes up will start learning new things, discovering new things, changing their behavior, making different decisions. And from the perspective of the rest of the family, your siblings, maybe even your parents, your grandparents, it feels like to them that you have changed, or you're deserting them, or you're no longer a part of them. And so there is this phenomena sometimes where it's like crabs in the bucket. Like, if you guys have heard of that story, that I believe this is true, that if there's lots of crabs stuck in a bucket and one of them tries to crawl out, the other ones will grab it and pull it back down. In fact, the actual story is a lot more gruesome. I heard that they actually tear their limbs apart and make sure that they don't get out of the bucket. So that's how sometimes people can do. Some of us are lucky where we have support from family and friends as we're doing in our work, but chances are a lot of us aren't, and it can just feel like there's a huge disconnect when you wake up and you start doing things differently and doing inner work. You're using different language. You don't want to participate in toxic communication anymore, right? And so a lot of times people will try to first guilt you, shame you, or say things like, oh, well, you're changed and you think you're better than us, and things like that. And that's why you have to understand that in order to break these generational curses, you sometimes have to be okay with being the savage generation. And I use this term because I've had a really weird example of this in my own journey in my life, where I was just minding my own business, doing my inner work, changing my behavior that I had inherited, patterns that I had inherited from family members through generations. And the rest of the extended family were saying things like, she's changed, she's toxic, she's bad, look at the way she dresses now, who does she think she is? And so there was this element of like thinking that I'm bad or like I've changed. And so at first it obviously bothered me, because I'm like, I'm not bad. I don't have bad intentions. I'm just trying to do my inner work. You guys keep doing you, like, things like that, like trying to convince them. But the more I did that, the more they just found reasons to believe that no, I was just bad. I was a bad person and I wasn't no longer available to participate in these other codes or programs they were running. And at one point I just realized that I had to be okay with people thinking that I was savage, that I was bad, that I was evil, that I had somehow changed, and that somehow whatever they thought, I had to be okay with it. And so instead of just being even okay with it, I decided that I was going to claim myself as savage, that I was going to have to be the one that takes one for the team, for the future generations, for all of our descendants, and be the one that sort of breaks away from the pack. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to leave your family. That's not what I'm saying. It doesn't mean that you have to like fight with your family or you have to stop talking with people. It just means that you have to energetically make the decision that you are no longer available for certain conversations, certain behaviors, certain patterns, and that you are going to do things differently, and that some people will think that there's something wrong with you, that you're evil, that you're bad, that you're selfish. Oh my God, that was a big one that I kept hearing. I heard that term so much for me that I actually just adopted it and started owning it and saying, yes, I am, and I am selfish, so my future generations get to have a completely different reality. And so you are going to have to get yourself to a point where you are okay with that. Okay? Because the thing is that the arrow of time is a bish, as I say, and it doesn't stop for anyone. Okay, so you can stay stuck here, and then you will be also a part of the generational curse that your future descendants talk about. You will become a part of the story that says, oh yeah, mom also had this, and then grandma had this, and you don't want to be the one that lives out that chain of curse. That's an option for you. Or another option for you is to be the one, you know what, we had this thing playing out, but mom changed it. Mom broke that curse, or aunt broke that curse. Like whoever, whether you have children or not, there are descendants that you're going to have, right? There's a genome that gets to live on. And even for you, right, you need to be okay with being the outlier, with being the savage generation, with being the one that people think that there's something wrong with, but then you get to have a completely new reality. And the truth is, if you're really doing your inner work and changing and evolving, you will be quantum leaping so fast that of course people will think there's something wrong with you. You're superhuman. Of course they will think that you've left people behind, because you have taken wormholes of inner work through and traveled like distances that they can't imagine. The way that I see my life, I feel like I've lived 1,000 lifetimes in my almost 42 human years, and I plan to live at least another 1,000 or 2,000 lifetimes before I go, because it's not about the actual era of time, it's how much growth can you collapse into it. So this is exactly the work that I'm teaching inside of my new absolutely fantastic course called $1 Million Babe. This is different than my $1 Million Babe money course and the Manifesting Babes course. This is the actual inner work for $1 Million Babes. all new content delivered live for the first go, and then it will be available as a digital recording afterwards. I am launching this on 11/11, meaning it starts on 11/11 at 11/11. So super, super huge portal. And right now, for the next few days, I have a pre-launch early bird pricing available. So because this is a pre-order and there's actually no content in there right now, if you purchase it now, you get almost $1,000, I think a little bit more than $1,000 off the course. So lifetime access, new content added probably every year. You guys know how I roll. This is going to be the $1 million babe inner work, how you can collapse time and be a completely different person, living in a completely different paradigm than anyone else that you have met or seen, especially with those generational curses or patterns that may be going on. So this is going to be deep stuff. I like to think of it as if all of my inner work and all of my feminine energy trainings and all of my quantum physics trainings and all of my evolution trainings, they all had a baby, this would be that course. So I'm super excited about it. You can find the link in the description box, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.